What's up, all you doodles and doodlers out there, you schemers and dreamers, and welcome back to another episode of Doodle Talk. This is episode 47, and I'm recording it a little bit earlier in the week than I normally do. Normally I record these bad boys on a Saturday, but it is a Wednesday. I guess that's a Doodle Talk first. Gonna kind of be out of town this weekend, so just trying to get it done ahead of schedule. And yeah, just got a few things to talk about. This one might be another short episode. I'm going to see if I can try and keep these a little bit shorter. I think it might be a little bit more easily digestible that way. But yeah, I hope you're doing good. Come on in, grab a seat. Still going to be a good one. I got a fun topic to talk about today. But just kicking it off, going over the art stuff. So by the time this comes out, it'll be just after Halloween. So I'm making like a little witch transforming into a black cat animation that's happening right now. I'm digging it. I'm liking the way it's turning out. I think I can finish it in time for Halloween. So please check that out. It'll be up on my Instagram, and probably be able. I'll post something. I'll post a short or something on YouTube and on Twitter. I'm trying to post a few things on Twitter and see if I can get some traction over there. But yeah, besides that, there's one other animation that I just finished up the other day, a quick little one, like the samurai vampire one. I don't know if that one will be out yet, but if it is, go check that one out too. And then in terms of other stuff that I'm working on, I'm really excited about this one YouTube video that I'm working on. I actually just cranked out and wrote the whole script yesterday. I'm trying to outside of like one or two videos, I normally kind of start filming stuff or like storyboard it out before I do any kind of narration or voiceovers or writing scripts. And this one, I wanted to write the whole script first before anything, and then record it and then work from there and see how that works. Just because I felt like I needed to mix it up. And when I was not writing the script first, I feel like it was a little bit more haphazard and just kind of like throwing things together, like not in a really bad way, but I feel like the quality could be better. And there's this type of video that I want to try and make where it's going to be a little bit more like, slower paced and have a little bit more meat to the bone, have a little bit more like content wise of what I'm actually saying. That's why I wanted to script it out. And yeah, hopefully that turns out good. I'm working really hard on it. So yeah, that'll probably be out. That'll be out sometime in November. But yeah, looking forward to that. And that's it though for like the most recent art stuff that's been going on with me. And let's jump into the main topic. So the other day I saw that Toei, the animation company, the studio, released a new trailer for a new Dragon Ball series that's coming out I believe next year, and it's called Dragonball Daima. And Daima just essentially means, it uses the two kanji for like big and evil. So make of it what you will. Toriyama made a little post where he talked about it, and so let me start. Okay, I saw the trailer, and the first thing I noticed is like the animation's a lot better than Dragon Ball Super. It looks like they had for whatever reason, just a way bigger budget, maybe more time to work on it. I don't know. Animation's kind of in a good spot quality wise, where like a lot of, they're hiring a lot of people outside of Japan and a lot of talented people, and I feel like they're able to maybe outsource their work a little bit better and more efficiently to where the quality doesn't suffer maybe as much as it used to back in the day. But the overall quality looks really good. And then like, we don't know too much about the story yet, but it looks pretty cool, and just on a very first viewing. And I'm not really someone who, like, I love Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball Z. I grew up with it. It was my favorite anime as a kid. I used to want to be Goku every day of my life. In 3rd grade, walking to school, thinking about how I'm gonna get home and go run along this one trail by my house, and it kind of looked like Snake Way when Goku has to like run all the way to get out of like the hell like spirit world area. I mean, that was my jam. That was my shit, right? Like, as I'm sure a lot of anyone around my age or even younger, I'm sure you probably grew up loving Dragon Ball Z and like running home to watch it on Toonami after school every day. And I hope you did if you're an anime fan, because then you know like how special that is and how special of a place in our hearts that Dragon Ball has, right? But it hasn't always received like the best treatment over the years in terms of like its animes and stuff, and a lot of good movies as well. But it's one of those ones where it doesn't, I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say here. It's like it's not like you're not gonna watch all of Dragon Ball and then be like, just based on the anime, and probably you're not gonna just put it up there with like, I don't know, some of the other like masterpieces or whatever, right? Like, it's not as not every episode of Dragon Ball Z is obviously not as good as like one episode of Cowboy Bebop, right? And they're obviously, right? Same with like One Piece. The One Piece anime, I never really fucked with it. I think if I had watched it when I was a kid, I probably would have enjoyed it. But since I read the manga and the story is so good just in itself that I don't really need to watch the anime. So yeah, all that's to say is like Dragon Ball, you see this and you go, oh really, another one? Like, really, do we need that? Because the story just keeps on going and keeps on going. And the thing I wanted to talk about today is like, when should a series just end? When should you end a series? Like, is it a good thing, a bad thing, or like a neutral thing of like just letting a series go way longer than it really needs to? And how is it up to the fans to decide when a series is dead? Is it up to the creator? Because the one thing that actually kind of got me excited was, like I was saying, Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, he made a little note, and I read it in English and Japanese, so I got to see both sides of like the actual, like what he was trying to say. And he was saying like that he's excited about the project, and because he's like retired. He doesn't have to do it. He could just never work again a day in his life and he'd be fine. But of course, he's like a mangaka who was under the Shonen Jump schedule for like however many years, 42 volumes of Dragon Ball Z. So he's probably broken. He like has to be doing at least some type of work. But he did a lot of he helped with the story, like created the story, did almost all the character designs or whatever, from what I can tell. And he seemed more excited. He even said that he's like, more than usual, like, I'm excited about this project, and I was able to put more of myself into it and like work on it in a more like more excited to work on it. And I think it's going to turn out better because of that, is essentially like what he said. And you don't hear him say that a lot, because I've read or like seen interviews where he talks about, he's helping write the story for Dragon Ball Super. I'm sure it's all like based off of his original ideas, especially the beginning kind of first few arcs. I'm sure it was totally just like things that he had been thinking about to continue after Dragon Ball Z. But he's even said, he's like, they're like, would you ever go back to drawing Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball, whatever? And he's always been like, no, I really don't want to. Like, having to do like having to ink and stuff, so many pages, and the crazy schedule, he's like, I would probably die if I had to do that. And he's like, I hate inking. He's like, I've always hated inking. I just like coming up with the ideas and doing like the rough sketches and storyboarding and like getting onto the paper, but when it comes to inking and all the final steps, he like hates that. Apparently, I'm paraphrasing here, but I've seen or heard him talk about that, which I'm sure a lot of other mangaka, like comic creators and stuff in Japan probably have similar feelings of just like hating certain parts of it, or just like, you're overworked like crazy. So I'm sure there are things that would make you feel that way, But all that's to say is he seemed a little bit more genuinely enthused about the Dragon Ball Daima, and in turn that kind of made me feel a little bit better about it, and kind of made me a little bit more excited about it. I do have one reservation. It's funny. It's like the thing I like about it and the thing I don't really like about it. It's the same thing. Is like, if you know Dragon Ball GT, Goku essentially gets like shrunken down to like his kid size when he was a kid, but he still has all like, you know, he's still like an adult, like mentally and power wise and everything, right? But and like that was okay. That was a kind of cool little thing. I was really young when I know some people hate GT and like because it's not like technically canon, and I don't know. I thought it was fucking sick, especially because I was so young when it came out. Like seeing like the red hair, like Super Saiyan 4, like Gogeta, the Ozaru things that they had going on, like turning into the big ape, like all that stuff was so cool to me. So I had no problems with GT. I was like, more Dragon Ball, like yes please. But yeah, so that kind of element of it is kind of taken back here, but I believe like everyone gets shrunken down and everyone gets turned back to kids. I'm not 100% sure. I guess everyone's still kind of like adults, but they're all just like chibi. They're all little like chibi characters, which is like kind of cool, I guess. The thing that I like about it is I think it's a good way, and Toriyama was like, he said it's not going to be your standard like Dragon Ball fights and like the same kind of like powers and stuff. It's kind of gonna be a little bit cuter, but probably like more like different fighting styles and different ways that things are gonna have to be like solved or like figured out. And it seems like it's a little bit more of like exploring the world, and like I think we might be getting a little bit more lore or like explanation of like the actual Dragon Ball world itself, which would be really, really cool. And I think is something super important when it comes to a series like Dragon Ball, because like you reach this point where it's like once you reach the problem of power scaling, and once power scaling gets out of hand, you know, people can't take you seriously anymore, right? And that's a huge problem that Dragon Ball had, where it's just like, how do you keep going up? How do you keep making people more powerful and more powerful? And then how do you keep that like proportionately linked to other characters? Or like how do you not just have one person become so overpowered that they could just really just wipe out and kill everyone or whatever? And how do you maintain that balance, right? It becomes a huge problem. And it's like, you know, it's just kind of what happens when you want to continue a story and they gotta kind of keep getting stronger. One of the reasons I love Yu Yu Hakusho so much is because there are obviously elements of that where it's like protagonist gets power up and becomes more powerful, right? For every arc or whatever. But Yu Yu Hakusho does an awesome job of like really having intellectual moments of like, you know, Kurama or even Hiei sometimes, like and Kuwabara too, because he's never really the strongest. So like they have to figure out other ways to like defeat an opponent or like beat the bad guy, right? Dragon Ball is really just like, oh, it's gonna be a super powerful Kamehameha, or it's gonna be a spirit bomb that everyone makes happen at the end, right? Which is cool. It's okay. It's a shonen series. You can't take this stuff too seriously, right? Like, I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, but you know, I'm not gonna be the guy who's like trying to debate if One Punch Man Saitama can beat Goku or something like that. Like, that's dangerous territory to get into, and I don't like to associate myself too much with the actual like fandom aspect of it, right? I talked about fandoms in an earlier episode of why I think they're pretty toxic overall, and you should just enjoy the thing that you want to enjoy, right? But we can have a conversation of like of what I'm trying to say here, of like, you know, just analyzing and looking at series that have come in the past or continuing series right now, and like trying to, in a level-headed way, like kind of see like, okay, when would have been a good time to stop, or like when is a good time to stop, right? I think there's always room for like discussions and thoughts on those things, right? But I'm not going to get into the weeds of anything too super nerdy, or like I'm not going to just start listing like characters' power scales and stuff, right? Because we all know they're over 9,000, so that's all you need to know, baby. But yeah, it's like so I found myself in this situation where I was like, normally, like for example, the newest like Dragon Ball movie that came out, like Dragon Ball Superheroes or something, it was like centered around Gohan and Piccolo, and I still want to see it. I want to watch it. It's in 3D animation. and I just don't really love the style, so it kind of was a little bit of a bummer. And no offense to the studio that made it or the animators over there, but I don't know, man. I'm thinking about doing a podcast soon talking about 2D and 3D animation and kind of my thoughts on both of them. I don't know if it'll be... It's really subjective, right? So I don't even know if that's a good topic. But I mean, I heard it was okay too. I heard it was pretty good. But that's like everything, right? Like the first like main arc of Dragon Ball Super was pretty sick. I watched all the anime of it too. I was reading some of the manga, and then the anime had just come out, so I switched and just watched the anime. But I got too far off track here, right? So that movie came out, and I'm like, meh, it's whatever. Like, maybe I'll watch it someday, and I still haven't even seen it, right? So when this new series got announced, I was like, oh, because everyone wanted another season of Dragon Ball Super. That's what a lot of the fans wanted. You can tell they're very vocal about it. It's like Toriyama announces a new series and 99% of the comments are just like, fuck you, we want Dragon Ball Super Season 2. It's funny. It's one of those rare situations where, like, instead of people, like, they could have milked Dragon Ball Super so hard and just made, like, a ton of seasons because, it's still ongoing in the manga. But instead, they tried to take a risk with something that's, like, completely different and a little bit off-brand for Dragon Ball. And, like, normally that would be something that would probably be applauded by, like, genuine anime manga fans. But Dragon Ball fans just be like, fuck you. we want the same fucking story just continuing forever. So that's funny. But I guess I get it. You could look at it the other way where it's like, I want them to continue the main storyline and not just do this, like, what could be like, we'll make all the characters chibi and small and cute, and then that'll make people watch it, right? So fair enough. That's an argument that could be had. But for whatever reason, it seemed pretty cool. And more than normal, I was, like, interested in it. Also just because the animation looked really good. I don't want to dog on the Dragon Ball Super animation, but it was pretty low quality. And, people talk shit on the original, like, Dragon Ball Z anime as well, but mostly just because of the pacing. Like, the pacing, probably the budget. I mean, Dragon Ball back in the day, like, when the anime was first airing, that shit was hand-drawn and hand-painted too, which is really crazy. Like, every cell that get used in the shot, they have the lines drawn, and then they have to paint. What you do is, like, you paint, it's like you're painting behind the lines. You're painting, like, on a glass thing, and then you have the lines over it, and you expose it together or whatever. Sorry, it's not a very great explanation, but they're hand painting every cell, every frame that gets shown, as well as drawing it, right? So there's some love and some craft and stuff going into that, right? At first it was just like, wow, I can't believe we're making this. It was like that level of thing. Like, it's so great that it's being made. And as a show, I don't even know how it really aired in Japan, but in America, I'm sure it was maybe slightly edited, because I believe that's why Dragon Ball Kai got made, is they were like, was like the original, I don't know if it was original, but it was like more well suited for broadcasting on TV, where there wasn't as many reused scenes, and it was more like a little bit faster paced. I'm not really 100% sure there. Sorry, I don't know my Dragon Ball facts there. But the main complaint, I would say, more than the actual animation quality, was like the pacing and how the story was shown, right? In Dragon Ball Super, I'd say the pacing was pretty on par for, like, your average modern kind of anime story, shonen story, but the actual quality was a little bit subpar. I feel like there were some scenes where it was done incredibly well, and you can tell, like, that's where the budget went. But it's Dragon Ball, man, and it's Toei, and it's like, this is the thing with One Piece too, is like, I don't understand. One Piece has been huge for, like, decades, especially in Japan, where you just feel like they could have upped the quality a little bit sooner with at least One Piece. And then Dragon Ball Super comes out. I'm actually not 100% sure that Dragon Ball Super anime was Toei, but I'm pretty sure it was. I'll try and double check that. But regardless, it's a huge franchise. A franchise like Dragon Ball you would think they would be able to make the best anime ever. And it shows in some of the movies, right? Like the Brawly movie. The animation was amazing. You can even just tell like the style and the way the characters are drawn and animated. Every frame seems like amazing, right? And then Dragon Ball Super, here's the thing is like, and I'm not shitting on the animators or the studio, right? I don't want to bring any kind of like bad, like I don't want to bring any hate to them. I'm just saying like you can tell where like they had to cut corners, or they didn't have budget, or like they probably ran out of time, or like people didn't have the resources or the people to, you know, do XYZ. And it may not because what I'm saying that is because it might not have even been their fault, really. You know, like they're told like, you have this many cuts, you have this many frames that you can use, here's your budget, you have to make it happen. And when you receive something like that, even if you're the biggest Dragon Ball fan in the world, you're gonna have some talking scenes where characters are like looking pretty stiff, or, you know, reusing cuts, reusing shots. And I don't want to get into the weeds on that either, but I just want to make the point of like the Dragon Ball Super anime didn't look that amazing. So that brings up the question of like, if you're not even going to be able to make it at a high quality, really, then like what's the point of continuing, you know, the series? Or why not just let it be a manga and not let it be an anime? And then you might say like, well, no one's going to see it if it's just a manga. A lot of Western people, especially anime fans who are fans of Dragon Ball Z, never read the manga. Like, I never really read the manga. I've read some of the Dragon Ball. Well, I've read some of the manga now, right? But, you know, I was just watching it growing up as a kid, and that's the way I like to consume it. That's why I stopped reading Dragon Ball Super and was just like, oh, I'll watch the anime, because I like all the voice actors, like the English voice actors, which is something that's rare for me, where I'm like, no, I prefer it dubbed just because I'm used to it, and, you know, they do a good enough job. So it's you know, and of course this is all subjective, but it gets to this point where you're thinking like, when do you let a series die? And that's the $1 million question, right? And in order to kind of like get our thoughts wrapped around this, I thought of like bringing up some other examples of like some good and bad ones. So the most obvious one that I can think of like a series that really should have just stopped is obviously Naruto, and I mean Boruto. Like when Boruto came out, like the one movie was kind of cool. So Naruto ends, right? The series ends, and people have their qualms about it and stuff too. But in general, I think the actual ending was really good. Some of the stuff before that is like, yeah, it gets really dragged out, and there are some things here and there that anyone would have the right to be upset over. But overall, right? I mean, like, same thing. I grew up on watching Naruto, and that was the first manga I ever actually started fully reading, kind of around when Shippuden started. And like, I mean, talk about another kind of a character that doesn't just like overpower the person, right? Like, oh my god, Shikamaru, oh, so good. The fight, his fight in Shippuden, if you know, you know. Just such a badass, right? That was actually around that area is when I started reading the manga. But right, sorry. So Naruto ends. Overall, pretty good. I really like the way how it actually ended. So to me, that can really save a story, save a manga or something, right? And I'm happy with it. I'm cool. I'm like, damn, I can't believe it's over. Felt kind of surreal. That was like the first story that I had really read growing up that I got to, while in the time that I was still really engrossed in the story, I got to see it finish. And it feels cool. It feels like it becomes like a family member at that point. It kind of just like, you know, is there like living inside your memory, and you have all those, like, it's part of your like imagination now or whatever, right? I don't know if that makes sense for other people, but that's kind of how I felt about it. And then all of a sudden the movie Boruto came out, and it was like, okay, that's kind of cool. It's kind of an epilogue, right? Of well, there was Naruto the movie, with him and Hinata, which I actually really liked. I don't know what the general consensus is on that movie, but I thought it was amazing. and the soundtrack and the music for that is like top tier. I still listen to that OST to this day. Really awesome. A really cool, like, actually storytelling driven like way to show the gap from like the end of the series to Naruto becoming an adult. And then the Boruto movie, is kind of like the epilogue that we all wanted to see, you know. Naruto becomes the Hokage and, you know, like all that stuff, right? And so like, yeah, that's cool. No one's gonna get mad at like kind of getting a nice ribbon on the top of the series that maybe you really loved. But then you see, the manga. I believe at first it was just the manga, right? So Kishimoto, the person who made Naruto, steps down and kind of does a Toriyama, where he's like, I think he's kind of in the background helping with the story and characters, and then someone else is drawing and doing the actual like legwork of creating the manga, right? And you see this, and the thing here too is like, it's a pretty different style. It's a little bit similar to Kishimoto, but like the people who draw Dragon Ball Super now keep the style like pretty freaking close to Toriyama. So it's like, if you didn't know, you might not even be able to tell that it's not him inking all the pages and stuff. But this is pretty different. This is not drastic, I would say, but you know, it's pretty obvious that it's not Kishimoto doing the drawings for Boruto. So it's a little bit different. And then, you know, the manga keeps going, and then Boruto gets picked up as an anime, right? And then you just slowly see, it's so weird. I always talk to my friend Brandon about this. Shout out Brandon. And because I didn't read it or watch for the longest time, and then I got sick one day, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna read some Boruto, I'm gonna catch up. And like, the story's weird and crazy, and like some parts, there's some cool fights, and some cool things happen. A lot of weird like teases where you think like something crazy is gonna happen, but then it like never really pays off or like doesn't actually happen. So just, you know, and Brandon would always like update me on like, he'd be like, dude, you gotta fucking like read this chapter, or like that's the one I don't care about being spoiled in Boruto, because I just don't give a fuck. Like, that's like the one series where I'm like, you can spoil that shit for me any day. Yeah, so he would give me an update, and I'd go read or watch and be like, oh my god, that's crazy. And you know, it gets to the point where you start to think of it as a joke. Like, Boruto to me is kind of a joke. And like, it sucks saying it, because, you know, I guess there was certain potential there, but it's like, none of us wanted this, you know? None of the people who grew up on Naruto and like watched the series end and were happy with how it ended, none of us wanted to just see like the next 10 years be divulged in weird spin-off stories of his son that can never live up to the hype and original quality of Naruto. And I think, you know, there's definitely some Boruto fans out there who would disagree with me, and fair enough. If you enjoy it, that's cool. I don't want to say like, I'm not here to say like you shouldn't enjoy something. I'm just saying like, it's important to look at this and try and like see if it's actually a good thing, right? Because for every like continuation of a series that should have finished, there could be another like new original series, or like, I don't know. It's hard to put it into words, where it's just like, it's kind of like taking up space, and it kind of sucks, because like I was saying, like, I don't like Boruto, so it kind of ruined Naruto a little bit, just a little bit, right? Kind of like how the Cowboy Bebop live action was so fucking terrible that it like almost like tarnished the anime Cowboy Bebop for me a little bit, just because you associate the two together, right? And I mean, luckily, if you're just reading or watching old Naruto, it's not as bad, because it's like actually separated by like different storylines, right? Whereas Cowboy Bebop is the retelling of the original story, so it's just very closely associated. And so you have this situation where now it's okay, you're reading Boruto, or like you see like the deformed monster that Boruto has become, where it's really like there's nothing of substance, and it fell into this black hole of like, first of all, there's more power scaling issues, There's a weird story. They tried to be edgy and like create something new and interesting, and parts of it were kind of cool, but overall it's just like flip-flopped and failed. It just seems to run on forever. Nothing of like substance ever seems to actually happen. There seems like there's no real consequences. And when something crazy does happen, where normally that would be the consequence of your actions, like it actually just seems like a weird ploy that they had to use in order to like keep the story moving, or just use as like a wow or a shock factor, right? And all of these things, first of all, just don't really make a good story to begin with. And then second of all, it detracts from the original, quality of the original work, right? And I know this I know it sounds crazy because I'm like just sitting here rambling on about like Boruto and Naruto and like talking about anime and manga and stuff. But hey man, I love these works. I love these authors. I love these creators. So it means a lot to me, and I don't mind kind of like, dipping my toes in the weeds, not getting into the weeds too much, but trying to talk about some of this stuff. But I have some other examples too, right? Where, well, first of all, before I forget, the one scary thing too is like One Piece has been going on forever, right? People are already speculating what like the spin-off or the next thing would be. And that's a story. That's something where I'm just like, if One Piece ends, it's going to be awesome. I already know. Like, I have full faith in Oda. It's going to be an awesome finish. The story's going to end. It's going to be one of the all-time greats of all time forever. If they fucking try and do like a two-piece or like a something that continues after that, that's not just like maybe Oda himself kind of like filling out the lore and explaining more of the One Piece world. Like, if they pull a Boruto on One Piece, I already know it's like, and it's not Oda who's like the one actually making it. I know to avoid it. Like, I'm not gonna do what I did with Boruto. Like, I'll disassociate from it as hard as fucking possible, right? Because that's how much One Piece means to me, right? I mean, I already had a weird thing with the live action where I liked parts of it, but I really didn't like other parts of it. And it's like, now that it's been a while that since the live action has come out and is like critically acclaimed and like most people love it, I still don't really love it that much, and I'm really worried. They're gonna do season 2 and on, and like I think it's just gonna turn into a dumpster fire. But let's not talk about that. So I have some other examples that I wanted to talk about that kind of puts this into perspective, right? And these are not like Eastern Japanese ones. These are from America. So we got like The Simpsons, right? I mean, The Simpsons has a bajillion seasons, right? And the first like 16 or something seasons were really good, right? I mean, you originally had writers like Conan O'Brien and a lot of like the really old school, like awesome comedian crowd, like a lot of awesome like writers and comedians who were coming up at the time were a lot of the writers on Simpsons and his shows. And Matt Groening, I'm sure when he started making Simpsons, you just have like it's fresh and it's new, and like I'm sure he was getting a lot of good input and stuff. It's like how much is Matt Groening involved in The Simpsons anymore, right? I think it's a genuine question. I really am curious to know. I'd be curious to know how much he actually like provides to The Simpsons nowadays. But it's gone downhill, obviously. When something just goes on for like 20-30 years, what can you expect? There's a ton of like long-running shows like Sazae-san in Japan, like Doraemon, Sazae-san. A lot of these Anpanman, but that's like a kid show, right? That's like somebody getting mad at like Scooby-Doo running for 32 seasons. Like, damn it, Scooby-Doo used to be good. What? They should have stopped while it was ahead. So I'm leaving out any kind of like I don't know, anything that's for like kids, or really The Simpsons isn't the best example, because what I'm talking about with Dragon Ball and a lot of the other anime are like kind of like beginning and end stories, right? But I think it's worth noting because Simpsons used to be a really funny, great show, and then it just became really, I don't know, it just became like a carbon copy of itself with no substance, right? Family Guy is kind of another one. To me, I loved Family Guy back in the day, so funny, but it gets kind of old, right? And you can only go on so many seasons, so many episodes without like losing the substance and the story and like without people kind of falling out of love with it. And it begs the question, should you just stop, right? Like, when do you stop as a creator or a series with something like that? Because it's like, at a certain point, I really do think you're doing more harm than good. And that was what I was kind of trying to say with like the with Naruto and stuff. It's like, I think my overall impression of Naruto would always still be higher if the Boruto had never happened, right? And if Simpsons had gotten canceled in, you know, early 2000s and had a good like 18 season run or whatever, I think it would have been lauded and like loved by so many more people and placed really high up on a pedestal, instead of now somebody be like, did you see The Simpsons? And you'd be like, that show's still running? I'm like, oh yeah, I used to like that show back in the day. And like, that's it, right? And you know, it's like, not everyone cares. Not everyone's like trying to like, I don't care if the show is like critically acclaimed. It's like, you could be someone who you like Big Bang Theory, right? And it's like, that's fine. But you know, a lot of people hate Big Bang Theory. I never really liked it, but I didn't hate it that much. Some shows are just easy to shit on, and that's another way to look at it too. But I don't know. It's kind of like, to those fans, to the actual like hardcore fans of those shows, I think you do owe it to them a little bit to, if you're in a position to kind of go out on a high note and just kind of take a quiet bow and leave the stage, I think you should. I really do. I do have one other example of an exception, which would be South Park. And this is a curious example, because there's kind of two things that I feel with South Park. One is they still really don't miss. They're still really, really funny. What is it? Matt and Trey, right? The creators and the writing staff, you know. I mean, what is it? It's like A Week Till Air, I think, is like that little mini short documentary where they go over like beginning to finish like the writing and production of a South Park episode, when they were on a schedule where they were essentially doing like one episode a week, and it was just airing like immediately when it got finished on Comedy Central. That's crazy. If you've never seen that, I would go like check it out. I think it's called like A Week to Air or something like that, if you just search like South Park documentary. And you can tell they're still having fun, and they're still like really putting their all in there. I mean, that was a while ago now. That was like 5, 6, 7 years ago even for that. But it's still really funny. But here's the thing, is like, I don't really watch South Park anymore. And why? Because it's like, I've seen a bajillion episodes, and like, yeah, it was really funny when I was a kid. It's kind of like the same thing with Family Guy. Like, I stopped watching Family Guy, I think, before I even really fell off. Because, you know, you kind of grow out of things, or you just, you know, I'll watch a South Park episode every now and then if a friend suggests one and I'm able to like watch it with them or something. But even then, it's like, even if you're like South Park and you're still creating really great stuff, should you just keep going? And then at that point, it's up to the creator. I feel like they can decide, right? Just because they're still doing a good job, so it's up to them. Like, I would never want to be someone who's like, man, South Park should just stop. They should go out, you know. I think they should kind of stop if they see the quality going down and they're like, yeah, I don't think we can continue this. We should probably bow out while we can. Like Rick and Morty, right? Rick and Morty was amazing for the first like 3 or 4 seasons, but I don't know. I kind of stopped watching, and I think I kind of got tired of it, and the quality started to go down a little bit. Just like, it happened at the same time, and it really just, I didn't really feel like watching it again. And I know a lot of this is all subjective. It's all just like kind of my perspective on things. And some people might be like diehard Rick and Morty fans that they're gonna, you know, watch no matter what. But I think, yeah, it's still valid to have a point of view of like, kind of, I'm not like, you know, you don't get like disappointed in a show when the quality goes down. Like, things happen, you know, things happen. Just as far as like I was saying with like the budget and the time constraints with anime and even manga, for like in that sense too, you know. But I think as fans of these things, you can have an opinion about like when you would have wished that something would have ended. I don't know. I just think I think it's just you end up being more respected, and like people appreciate the thing in the long run. People really end up appreciating the thing when they bow out and they leave the stage at a good time, or like at their high, or they just they don't need to keep milking the cow. They're good. They made a story. They're gonna move on to the next one, and I think that's really important. I think that's something that I wish people did more, instead of like it's like the Disney remakes and the live action remakes and all that stuff. It's all connected. It's all connected there, where it's just like, well, we could create a new IP, or we could just make Boruto season 18 and just keep milking this cow. But Dragonball Daima is kind of a special case where something has been running for so long, and then they kind of take a new approach, and I'm really curious because it could be terrible. I'm sure it could, but I'm a little curious, so I think I'm going to be watching and giving my thoughts on it, and I'll let you guys know. Maybe I'll do like kind of an update, not just on that, but like maybe an update on this kind of idea that I have, or if I've changed my views, or what I think about it. But I don't want to keep going on too long. I think the main thing I wanted to just talk about today were like I said, like, when do you stop? When should a series stop? What are the detriments of something when it just keeps going and it really just ruins the original work for someone? And like going over those examples. So I think it's a fun thought experiment, and I think it's something that's interesting. And if you can like try and take out some of the subjectiveness of you just being a fan or having been a fan of something, and look at it in a more like kind of logistical way, I think it gets really interesting, and sometimes cool and fun, and like, oh, I can't wait to see this, and sometimes like, Jesus Christ, I wish they would stop making that. So there's kind of two sides of the spectrum, right? But that's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. That was a little random, but I think if you're an anime fan, you've probably had the same kind of talks with your friends like 100 times. So I hope my perspective wasn't too boring, or maybe you agree with me, or maybe you don't. But yeah, thanks for listening, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.